When you hear the word samurai, what comes to mind? Probably a stoic warrior meditating under a cherry blossom tree holding a shiny sword and talking about honor, right? Well, forget that. Historical reality is, let's say, a bit more chaotic and full of bureaucracy and betrayals and questionable haircuts. Today, we're gonna find out who these guys really were. Spoiler alert, they looked less like Jedis and more like armed tax collectors who eventually decided they ran the whole country. To understand the samurai, we need to go back to Japan in the Heian period, around the 8th century. Back then, Japan was ruled by the emperor and his court in Kyoto. And the court was, how can I put this? They were cringe. They didn't want to fight. They wanted to write poetry, wear perfume, and gossip about who was wearing the wrong shade of silk. But someone had to do the dirty work. Someone had to collect taxes from the peasants in the countryside and protect the land. So the court hired some brutes from the rural areas. These hired guards were called saburao, which literally means those who serve. In other words, the original samurai was basically a glorified private security guard. And here is the first bombshell. In the beginning, the samurai's main weapon was not the katana. It was the bow and arrow. The sword was just a secondary weapon, like the little pistol in a shooter game when you run out of ammo. The fighting style was ride horse, scream your name and your entire family lineage for the enemy to hear, and then shoot arrows. I am Tanaka, son of Jiro, grandson of Taro, who liked curry rice. It was a lot of screaming before any blood was shed. Over time, these security guards realized something obvious. Hey, we have the weapons, we have the horses, and we know how to fight. Why are we listening to those guys in makeup in Kyoto? This led to the Genpei War in the 12th century, a massive family feud between two clans, the Taira and the Minamoto. Think of it like a huge football hooligan brawl, but with armor and decapitations. The Minamoto won, and their leader, Minamoto no Yoritomo, did something genius. He didn't kill the emperor, he kept him there as a holy figure, but took away all his political power. Yoritomo named himself shogun, which is a fancy way of saying military dictator. Thus began the shogunate, or the tent government. Japan was now samurai property. Oh, but what about the code of honor, Bushido? They were loyal to the death, right? Hold your horses, young Padawan. Loyalty was important, yes, but betrayal was the national sport of medieval Japan. If the neighboring feudal lord paid more rice, the samurai switched sides faster than a pro athlete out of contract. And there was seppuku, ritual suicide. Yes, that existed. It was a way to regain honor or avoid capture, but it wasn't the party they show in the movies. It was painful, brutal, and often the samurai had a buddy, the kaishakunin, ready to cut off his head and end the suffering quickly. It was basically an extreme voluntary severance package. Things got really crazy in the 13th century when the Mongols showed up. Kublai Khan, grandson of Genghis Khan, looked at Japan and said, "I want that." The samurai went to the beach to defend the island, and it was a culture shock. The samurai wanted to do that ritual of shouting their names and fighting one-on-one. The Mongols, who didn't care about etiquette, attacked in groups, used gunpowder bombs, and basically trampled all over Japanese honor. Japan was going to lose, badly. But then a miracle happened. A giant typhoon destroyed the Mongol fleet, twice. The Japanese called it kamikaze, or divine wind. The samurai thought the gods were on their side, but they went broke because you can't loot a typhoon. There was no war booty to pay the soldiers. This caused a huge crisis. Fast forward to the 15th and 16th centuries, and we entered the Sengoku Jidai, the Warring States period. Think Game of Thrones, but everyone's Japanese, and no one showers properly. Japan fragmented. It was every daimyo, feudal lord, for himself. It was the golden age of samurai, ninjas, and firearms, yes. In 1543, the Portuguese arrived and sold arquebuses, or matchlock guns, to the Japanese. They loved them. Honor of the sword, screw that, I just want to shoot that guy over there. 3 legendary figures emerged to unify this mess. The first was Oda Nobunaga, the Demon King. He was ruthless and loved firearms. Then came Toyotomi Hideyoshi,
The guy started out carrying Nobunaga's sandals and became the most powerful man in Japan, the greatest case of social climbing in history. And finally, Tokugawa Ieyasu, the patient one. He waited for the other two to die or fail and took power, founding the Tokugawa shogunate in 1303. He closed Japan to the world and established peace. And here we enter the Edo period, 250 years of peace. And that was terrible for the samurai. Think with me, what good is a warrior if there is no war? The samurai became bureaucrats, civil servants. They still had the right to carry 2 swords and could cut off a peasant's head if he was disrespectful, the so-called keriuzurike gomen. But in practice, they were getting poor. They were paid in rice, but the economy was monetizing. Merchants, who were the lowest class, were getting rich. The samurai, the high class, were drowning in debt. It was in this time of peace that the Bushido was really written and romanticized. It's easy to talk about honor and death when you spend all day performing tea ceremonies and arranging flowers. The party ended in 1853. Commodore Perry from the United States arrived with his black ships and giant cannons and said, "Open the country or we'll open it by force." The samurai realized their swords didn't stand a chance against modern technology. This divided the country. Some wanted to modernize, others wanted to keep traditions. This led to the Meiji Restoration in 1868. The emperor returned to power in theory, and the samurai class was officially abolished. The end. It's over. We had one last revolt by Saigo Takamori, the so-called last samurai from the movie, but they were slaughtered by the modern interior army made up of peasants with rifles. Irony of fate, huh? So, what's left? The myth. Today, the samurai is a pop icon. But the truth is, they were human. They were brave, yes, but they were also greedy, political, and sometimes cowards. They killed for honor, but they also killed for money. They created a culture of discipline and aesthetics that defines Japan to this day. But make no mistake, if you met a samurai on the street in 1500, you wouldn't ask for an autograph. You'd run. And that is the beauty of history. It isn't black and white. It's gray, and red with blood, and gold with gold. If you enjoyed finding out that your favorite Japanese hero was probably an indebted civil servant, hit the like button. Comment down below, what other warrior class do you want us to unmask? Medieval knights, Vikings, Spartans? Subscribe to the channel for more historical gossip, and see you next time. Sayonara, everyone!